立法會
The President. Members, this is the first council meeting in the year of the snake. I hope all industries in Hong Kong are as wise and flexible as a snake. I wish good health and prosperity to all members of the public. I also work smooth work and harmony in the government. Questions. Question 1, Mr. Gary Chan. Thank you, President. Regarding the action plan on green maritime fuel bunkering promulgated by the government last year, will the government inform this council? 1. Given that the action plan proposes to adopt a multi-fuel strategy, but it is learned that at present there are many types of green maritime fuels in the market, and most of them are at an early stage of development, while investments in the diversified development of fuels will not only increase the operational burden on investors, but also reduce the cost-effectiveness of such investments. Whether the authorities will expeditiously specify the designated fuels and set relevant standards, carbon reduction targets, timetables, etc., so that investors can concentrate their resources and carry out long-term development planning. 2. As it is learned that at present, the mainland is already one of the major producers of maritime fuels, such as biodiesel and green methanol, and the related technologies have become relatively mature. How the authorities will, through administrative measures, support Hong Kong enterprises in fully grasping the advantage of enjoying the strong support of the motherland to build Hong Kong into a maritime fuel bunkering center. And 3. Given the action plan proposes to set up a green maritime fuel incentive scheme within this year to encourage pioneer companies to develop green maritime fuel bunkering business in Hong Kong, when the authorities will announce the details of this scheme. Thank you, President. Secretary for Transport and Logistics. President, the maritime industry accounts for about 3% of the world's carbon emissions. In order to reduce maritime operations' negative impacts on the environment, the International Maritime Organization, or the IMO, has set out the target of achieving net zero carbon emissions from international shipping by or around 2050. There are many ways to reduce emissions, including adoption of energy-saving technologies, switching to more energy-efficient vessels, usage of smart maritime technologies, etc., among which the use of green maritime fuels is by far the most effective. Therefore, the industry has started to switch to using low or even zero carbon green maritime fuels. Hong Kong must enhance its green maritime fuel bunkering capabilities to respond to market's needs, so as to give full play to our advantage of our excellent geographical location and our position as a major bunkering port in South China, consolidate Hong Kong's position as an international maritime center, and maintain the competitiveness of our port. The government promulgated the Action Plan on Green Maritime Fuel Bunkering, or the Action Plan, in November last year, setting out clear targets with 5 strategies and 10 action measures, with an aim to develop Hong Kong into a green maritime fuel bunkering center. The government has received strong support from the industry since the promulgation of the action plan, with various domestic and international players from different parts of the green maritime fuel bunkering supply chain expressing interest in developing bunkering-related businesses in Hong Kong. We have also received support from Legislative Council members. Regarding Mr. Gary Chan's questions, the reply is as follows. 1. Currently, a number of green maritime fuels, including biodiesel, liquefied natural gas or LNG, green methanol, green ammonia, and hydrogen are being used or tested by the industry, but not a single type of green maritime fuel is being particularly favored. According to publicly available information on new vessels on order, by 2030, we expect that there will be over 1,000 vessels capable of being powered by LNG and nearly 400 methanol ones by 2030, as well as a number of hydrogen and green ammonia vessels in the world. Meanwhile, as most of the vessels that can use green maritime fuels will likely have dual fuel engines, these vessels, as well as the other traditional ones not yet due for replacement, will likely adopt biodiesel, which is cheaper than other green maritime fuels currently, to reduce emission in the short term. Taking into consideration the current trend in the maritime industry to retrofit or build new vessels powered by different green maritime fuels, and also the figures I quoted, the high investments involved in altering or retrofitting vessels, and the new vessels can generally operate for more than 20 years after delivery, we expect diversified developments in the green maritime fuel bunkering market in the coming decades. Therefore, Hong Kong must respond to market demand and adopt a multi-fuel development direction like other major ports such as Singapore, Rotterdam, and Shanghai, including making biodiesel bunkering immediately available. Developing LNG and green methanol bunkering in the short and medium term respectively. We will also provide a clear direction for the trade in terms of usage of green maritime fuel. We will also consider development of the bunkering of hydrogen and green ammonia in the long run. We are actively developing along the aforementioned directions. For instance, we are going to start by issuing the Code of Practice on LNG bunkering in January. This week, in Hong Kong waters, we will conduct the first ship-to-ship LNG bunkering. On green methanol, we will within this year invite the industry to submit expressions of interest in relation to developing green methanol storage facilities on a site in Tsing Yi South, and complete the Code of Practice on green methanol bunkering. As for hydrogen and green ammonia, we will commence a feasibility study on the bunkering of these fuels within this year to set out the development direction. As regards standards on green maritime fuels, the IMO expects to finalize a number of mid-term greenhouse gas reduction measures within the year, which are expected to enter into force around 2027, among which the GHG fuel standard will require the phased reduction of the GHG intensity of maritime fuels. As an associate member of IMO, Hong Kong will follow the organization's requirements. 2. Establishing a stable green maritime fuel supply chain is one of the action measures set out in the action plan. Given our proximity to the mainland, which is a major producer of a number of green fuels, we expect that most of Hong Kong's green maritime fuels will be imported from the mainland. In fact, currently some Hong Kong companies have already set up production facilities in different provinces and cities in the mainland, including Inner Mongolia and Foshan, to produce green maritime fuels, while some Hong Kong and mainland producers have expressed interest in providing such fuels to Hong Kong. The stable green maritime fuel supply chain can also allow us to take advantage of our mature financial system, good business environments and reputation, and regulatory regime in line with international standards, to develop into an international green maritime fuel trading center. At present, the government will actively foster the conclusion of green maritime fuel offtake agreements with green maritime fuel suppliers, including those from the mainland, and shipping companies interested in bunkering such fuels in Hong Kong. The Marine Department has set up a dedicated team to provide one-stop services for relevant companies to help them build an effective supply chain in Hong Kong. 3. As far as Green Maritime Fuel Bunkering Incentive Scheme goes, it aims to encourage pioneer enterprises to start green maritime fuel bunkering businesses in Hong Kong. We will establish the scheme in 2025. We are now drawing out the details of the scheme to be established in this year. We will announce the details in due course. Thank you. Mr. Gary Chan. Thank you, President. In her reply, the Secretary said that a port backup site will be identified near Tsing Yi South for green fuel storage facilities purposes. Would that be sufficient for initial users? And when will the plan be made public to the society? Besides Tsing Yi, can we also consider identifying other sites in other places, or even rezoning land or build storage facilities at sea? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Gary Chan. The site identified in Tsing Yi South is 9 hectares large. According to our understanding from the trade, for a green methanol storage tank, the storage capacity is some 45,000 tons. It will take less than 1 hectare less than 1 hectare in size. We will also consider the impacts on the proximity and ancillary facilities may be needed. Our target is to send out invitation for expression of interest by the middle of this year to gauge the interest from the trade. Besides the sites in Chengyi South, depending on the trade's interest, we will also try to identify other sites for green methanol storage facilities. Most importantly, the location must be in a coastal area so that port facilities can also be built for shipping the fuel. Now, for sites set aside for traditional fuel storage, we will also invite the trade to retrofit them for storing new green maritime fuels. Mr. Frankie Yik. Thank you, President. All along, the Liberal Party has been promoting the adoption of green fuel bunkering system in Hong Kong with the governments, for example, LNG and methane. Now, the reply is clear about the government's work and progress. In the paper, in the reply, you mentioned that some local enterprises have set up production facilities in Foshan, and also the Chengyi South land parcel will be used for green methanol storage facilities. But like I have emphasized on numerous occasions, we need to give a specific timetable to international liners so that they can plan for their shipping routes. You have to tell them when this will happen. First quarter in 2026 or year 2027, you need to give them a clear plan so that we can consolidate our position as an international port. Secretary, I fully agree with Mr. Frankie Yik, and riding on this opportunity, I would like to thank Mr. Frankie Yik for working with the governments to develop the bunkering system in Hong Kong. For interested parties like fuel suppliers, bunkering operators, and shipping liners, we need to gather all stakeholders in the supply chain and the value chain together. I urge members, especially members in relation to the trade, to help us in this regard. Concerning the timetable, as mentioned in my main reply, we have already formulated a timetable for the year. We adopt a multi-field strategy. However, in terms of which fuels to use and also the data, we will set a direction within the year to send out a clear message to the trade so that different parties can work towards the goal. Mr. Rokshan, President, now the Maritime Fuel Ordinance of the EU has been implemented this year. How will that impact our action plan in terms of policy setting, introduction of technologies and infrastructure? Thank you, President. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Rokshan. In terms of meeting the net zero targets set by the IMO, different association members have adopted various strategies. As mentioned by Mr. Rokshan, the EU has set a clear carbon reduction target. Recently, they have imposed penalties on shipping companies which fail to meet the requirements. There will be taxations or additional fees charged on these non-compliant companies. On behalf of Hong Kong's shipping industry, we will obtain more information from the EU. On the other hand, in 2025, the IMO is going to promulgate medium-term measures on carbon reduction. In response, we will make our ports ready for transformation into green-friendly ports and facilitate green bunkering operators to operate in Hong Kong. This will help us achieve the carbon reduction targets. At the same time, this will also facilitate the compliance of our shipping companies when their ships call at ports in Europe. Now, in Hong Kong, whether we will adopt a similar strategy like the EU and impose penalty on non-complying ships, there is intense competition internationally in terms of ports, so we would like to adopt an incentive model rather than a punitive model. Otherwise, that may deter shipping companies to operate in Hong Kong. Mr. Stanley Ng. President, we support the adoption of green maritime fuel and green energy in the industry. At the same time, in terms of occupational safety and health, and also operation of green fuel bunkering facilities, the government should provide more training to workers. So what has the government done in terms of OSH and training? Secretary. There are two areas. First, on emerging green maritime fuel. In operation, the operators need to be equipped with certain qualifications. For bunkering operations in Hong Kong, the Marine Department will require the operators to conduct a risk assessment plan and also submit a report to the authority. For the workers, we have designed training courses for them. There are also training courses offered by authorized educators in the mainland, available for seamen and crew members. Many of them are related to occupational safety and health. We have already identified 8 programs in relation to OSH. In terms of short-term needs for talents in green fuel bunkering, we will study whether we can add the relevant categories to the talents list, so that when we are developing the ecosystem, we can have the relevant talents to help train up local talents for us. Mr. Chan Hak-kan. Thank you, President. In her main reply, the Secretary mentioned that a stable supply chain of green maritime fuel will help us to become the international port, but also help us take advantage of our mature financial system, good business environment, and regulatory regime to develop ourselves into an international green maritime fuel trading center. I think we also need to make good use of our professional services like accreditation services. This will also bring about economic activities in relation to carbon trading. To establish an international green maritime fuel trading center, we need cross-bureaus and departmental coordination. The TLB alone is not enough in this task. We also need to work with the mainland. Will the government consider establishing a higher-level steering committee to drive the development of the Maritime Fuel Trading Center, and also establish Hong Kong into a platform of carbon trading? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chan. Mr. Chan has had a lot of discussion with the administration, and with a high-level steering committee, we can better utilize our advantages. Now, the PLB and the EEB have all along been working closely together. The action plan promulgated just now is a product of the two bureaus' labor. In terms of international accreditation standards, we will encourage our accrediting agency to equip themselves to accredit green maritime fuel. We will also attract international accreditators to establish themselves in Hong Kong. In terms of establishing Hong Kong into a green fuel bunkering system, we also rely on free flow of capital, our sound legal system, and our mature financial system. Through internal collaboration between bureaus, we can give better play to these elements. Whether a higher level steering committee is needed, well, we will first enhance synergy between bureaus and departments and work from top down to drive the effort. Reports will be made to principal government officials, and we will secure the support of officials from the central government. Mr. Yim Kong, thank you. Now, green maritime fuel bunkering is the international trend. We don't have such a production base in Hong Kong, so like the Secretary said, we mainly rely on mainland imports in terms of green maritime fuel. Now, whether it is land or sea, we need to establish storage facilities in Hong Kong. Now, for suitable locations beside the one in Chengyi South, there may be appropriate lands, but rezoning may be needed. But we all know the rezoning process is highly time-consuming. So can the Secretary do something to speed up the rezoning process? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Yim Kong. In the action plan, we have set out that besides identifying suitable land for fuel storage purposes, there is high competition for land because other industries need land as well. Now, there are existing sites for storing traditional fuels. We are encouraging the operators of these facilities to retrofit and upgrade their operations. We will work with approval departments like the land departments and the planning departments to work with interested parties and fuel storage facility operators to study their case individually. The Marine Department has also set up a one-stop platform to lead the charge on this. Mr. Yim mentioned whether financial incentives would be offered to the trade to apply for rezoning of land use. Now, that is a commercial decision, but we will try to facilitate this on all fronts.
Question to Ms. Yong Hoi-yan. President, it has been reported that recently a number of cases have occurred involving members of the public suspected of being lured to Southeast Asian countries and detained to engage in illegal work. In this connection, will the government inform this council one of the number of suspected cases of luring and detention received by the government in each month of the past 2 years, as well as the following information on each case, the countries involved, the respective numbers of persons who were lured and successfully rescued, the longest period of detention, the respective numbers of persons arrested, prosecuted, and successfully convicted in the cases concerned, and the penalties imposed on the convicted persons. 2. As it has been reported that the Security Bureau dedicated task force met with officials of the relevant law enforcement agencies in Thailand earlier to exchange views on further strengthening cooperation of the government's plans in place to enhance collaboration with other law enforcement agencies in the region, including cooperation in law enforcement and exchange of information. And 3, given that the MO of fraudsters is changing constantly, whether the government has plans to enhance publicity and education work, focusing on the fraudsters' latest MO so that members of public will step up protection for themselves and stay vigilant, if so, of details, if not the reasons for that. Secretary for Security. President, the Security Bureau has always attached great importance to cases where Hong Kong residents are suspected of being lured to Southeast Asian countries and detained to engage in illegal work, and has established a dedicated task force in August 2022 to coordinate follow-up work on the cases to provide all practical assistance to assistance seekers. Since Q2 of 2024, there have been signs of a resurgence in the situation. In view of recent developments, I led the dedicated task force comprising members from the Security Bureau, the Police Force, and the Immigration Department to Bangkok Last month, the dedicated task force met with senior officials, including the Minister of Justice of Thailand, Mr. Tawi Sotsong, who is a member of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Committee chaired by the PM of Thailand, and the heads of enforcement departments under the Minister of Justice to follow up on related cases. The dedicated task force reflected the situation, exchanged intelligence, and discussed strengthening collaboration. The Thailand authorities demonstrated great importance to the assistance cases and offered positive feedback. The authorities expressed they would also further strengthen the prevention and combat of transnational crimes and exchange views on further strengthening cooperation and jointly combating cross-border crimes. Members of the dedicated task force were sent again to Thailand late January of this year to coordinate with various units and held meetings with the Deputy Commissioner of the Immigration Bureau of the Royal Thai Police, Mr. Fantana Nuchanchad, and the Director of Special Investigation and the Director of Human Trafficking to arrange the return of the rescued Hong Kong residents as soon as possible. They will continue to actively assist and follow up on all relevant cases of Hong Kong residents who have yet to return. My reply to the question raised by Ms. Yung Hoi-yan is as follows. 1. From 2023 to January 2025, we have received a total of 28 requests for assistance cases in relation to Hong Kong residents alleged to have been detained in Southeast Asian countries and not being able to leave. 19 have already returned to Hong Kong. As for the remaining 9 persons, 8 are in Myanmar and 1 is in Cambodia. The dedicated task force will continue to follow up and provide appropriate advice and practical assistance to the assistance seekers or their families. The monthly breakdown of the number of requests for assistance cases received and the countries involved and the number of persons who have returned to Hong Kong are at the annex. From 2023 to January 2025, the police force arrested a total of 11 persons in connection with this type of job scam cases for offenses such as conspiracy to defraud, money laundering, and obtaining property by deception. During the same period, 2 persons who were arrested in 2022 were charged with conspiracy to defraud and convicted. They were sentenced to 36 months and 56 months imprisonment, respectively. 2. After I led the dedicated task force to Bangkok, Thailand to meet with Thai authorities last month, the dedicated task force established direct contacts with relevant Thailand authorities to enhance future communication and exchange of intelligence to follow up on the cases more effectively. The Immigration Department will continue to maintain close contact with the OCMFA, Office of the Commissioner of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the HKSAR, and the Chinese diplomatic and consular missions to actively follow up on the cases. The Secretary for Security also met with the Consuls General of Thailand, Myanmar, and Cambodia in Hong Kong mid-January 2025 of this year to exchange views, share information, and discuss strengthening follow-up work. The Security Bureau received positive feedback from the Consuls General. All parties expressed hope to assist more asylum seekers in returning to Hong Kong safely as soon as possible. 3. Since 2022, the police force have noticed the MO of the scams and started broadcasting anti-fraud videos through various channels and platforms to remind residents of the prevalent MO and exercise caution in order to avoid these scams. In view of recent cases, the government will continue to strengthen publicity, including promotion on social media platforms, distributing anti-scam leaflets to travelers heading to Thailand, Myanmar, and Cambodia in the Hong Kong International Airport and through media reports. In light of cases where the suspects met the victims in bars, the police force have also sent officers to distribute leaflets in various bar districts. In view of recent developments and having regard to the latest situation, the Security Bureau on 17th of January 2025 raised the outbound travel alert OTA level for southeastern regions of Myanmar, including Myawaddy District, Papuan District, Pa An District, and Kwa Karik District to red, while maintaining an amber OTA for the rest of the country. The Bureau also updated the OTA webpage on the same day regarding supplementary information for Cambodia with a view to reminding residents to exercise caution and beware of overseas job scams. The Bureau also put on alerts on overseas job scams in the other travel information section of the OTA webpage, urging residents to pay extra attention to online recruitment advertisements or any get money quick schemes or jobs offering extraordinarily high remuneration without specific requirements for qualifications or experience. Thank you, President. Ms. Yung Hoi-yan, I believe the reply gave some answers to my questions. For example, like the figures, I can also see that the administration is actively following up on the cases, and we have already had 19 people coming back to Hong Kong, but we still have 9 remaining. I want to ask, what are the difficulties you face when rescuing the relevant individuals? I can see the government has been proactive and we have a dedicated task force, but we still have almost half of the people still in Myanmar and Cambodia. I can see that the government has been mainly liaising with Thai authorities. Will you enhance liaison with Myanmar and Cambodian authorities to enhance your rescue efforts? Thank you. Acting Secretary. Thank you. Having received the reports of the people, they are mostly detained in Myanmar and Cambodia. We have made use of different channels, including the Interpol. We are also liaising with the local enforcement authorities. The Immigration Department also went through the OCMFA to communicate with consulates in Myanmar and Cambodia to help rescue the individuals. We had not liaised with Thai authorities then. In view of recent developments, we had enhanced communication with Thai authorities and mainly rely on Thai authorities for our rescue efforts now. We also rely on the Chinese consulate in the area for our rescue efforts. As for the difficulties we face, the situation in Myanmar is quite complex, especially close to the borders. The Myanmar government does not control a lot of areas. We mainly rely on our cooperation with the Thai authorities to identify the locations of the detained individuals and then conduct our rescue. Thank you. Mr. Kwat. The reply given by the administration said that for the get cash quick jobs, many netizens actually can tell that these are scams right away, so I guess you have been doing good in publicity. Now, there are some who have been publicizing the government's efforts in rescuing the individuals, and they are basically advertising that once ransom is paid, one can be released. It has caused some pressure on the families of the detained individuals. So with these incorrect information being circulated, what is the government's stance on this? We have 9 remaining cases and 19 who have returned to Hong Kong. How many of them have actually had ransom paid? Thank you. Acting Secretary. Thank you for your question. The dedicated task force, that is the police force, the immigration department, the relevant teams, have been maintaining direct contact with families, and we have talked to them to not believe in any intermediaries. We have seen in real life that there were intermediaries that would be scamming these families. And in fact, in Thailand, they recently detected a case that exactly had this happen. We would have families directly contact us. We will provide them with the right information. As for some who have been purportedly providing assistance to families, we will provide some psychological counseling support, and I believe information given to them is mainly information given by the family members. We have communicated with the relevant individual or individuals, and we know that they are now aware that they should not speak too much in the public to prevent sabotaging our rescue efforts for the 9 remaining persons. Ms. Jovi Chan, I understand the situation is complex, and I have been following all the cases myself. It would require coordination on rescuing the relevant individuals. I understand that you can't disclose the details because we want to make sure we can secure the rescue efforts and that we want to maintain privacy of such individuals. We can't do much outside, but we can do much in anti-scam efforts in Hong Kong. We now have 50 odd pieces of legislation that we can rely on, and the maximum penalty is life imprisonment. And we have seen the convicted persons that were only sentenced to 36 months and 56 months imprisonment. This is nothing compared to the trauma suffered by the individuals as well as their families. Will you increase the penalties so that the penalties handed out will be higher? Thank you. Acting Secretary. Thank you. We attach great importance to people being lured to somewhere overseas, and we also pay close attention to human trafficking. This would require international cooperation to combat such. We have all along been actively participating in the efforts. We have over 50 pieces of legislation that we can rely on in different areas of human trafficking that we can use to combat. For each prosecution, we need to make sure we refer to the evidence and see what laws can be applied to the cases. We can't say for sure the level of penalty is on par with the level of seriousness because different people play different roles. But let me say this, for human trafficking cases, from identification to providing assistance to investigation and prosecution, we have all along adopted a serious attitude, and we are always focusing on our efforts on such. Thank you. Dr. Teck Chi-yun, we still have 9 individuals detained in these regions. The government has talked about what they're going to do. But let me say this, the families are, of course, very worried. How confident is the government to rescue the 9 remaining persons so that they can return to Hong Kong? Acting Secretary. Thank you, President. My answer is we will use 100% or even more than 100% of our efforts so that they can come back to Hong Kong as soon as possible. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy Ng. We have rescued close to 20 people coming back to Hong Kong. I thank the dedicated task force for that. But according to media reports, these individuals who have returned to Hong Kong, they have suffered physical as well as psychological trauma. They even suffer PTSD. Has the administration have any plans or follow-up work to be done so as to help rebuild their lives and enhance their physical and mental well-being? Thank you. Acting Secretary. For the 19 persons who have returned to Hong Kong, the police force, the dedicated task force, have met with them, each and every one of them, to conduct investigations on human trafficking. And during the investigations, our colleagues did note that for some individuals, they are emotionally affected. They are hurt physically and mentally. So we have referred them to the relevant medical practitioners or counseling. Thank you. Dr. Johnny Ng. The police have all along advocated people not to fall for the get money quick schemes or the smuggling activities or carrying funds to Thailand or carrying diamonds to Taiwan, for example. And since they are going there with something like an illegal work in mind, will you have any follow-up investigations done on these individuals? Honestly, these are all just excuses, these get money quick schemes or jobs. So we have been conducting publicity campaigns to tell people that these are most likely scams. So these no longer attract as many people to apply. That's why they have changed their MO, the fraudsters. They would say that this is not illegal. We're just asking you to carry precious metals or cash to go to somewhere. People think it's a little risky, so you will get a higher remuneration. That makes sense. But then, of course, it's not. It's just a scam. And we have seen people who were forced to conduct frauds, these detained individuals. They were threatened or even attacked. So the police's stance is that we are conducting investigations to see why they were scammed, how they were transported there. We want to get information to rescue the remaining persons. As for criminal liability for these persons who have been detained and returned to Hong Kong, let me first say that we do not have extraterritorial effect on the relevant offenses. And I believe in other jurisdictions have some laws that if individuals are subject to duress or were threatened to do certain things, their criminal liability will be mitigated or even voided. Thank you. Ms. Carmen Kang. Thank you. The Central People's Government's relevant authorities, including the OCMFA, has helped the administration rescue the relevant persons. I thank them for their efforts, and I can see the rescues were conducted very quickly. I understand that the government reports on specifically human trafficking combating progress, and I think there is a task force that is led by the Chief Secretary for Administration. It is a high-level steering committee, obviously. Has this been looking at how criminal syndicates are doing in human trafficking? We do know that there is not many people who went to the places for tourism abducted, but then we want to see if there is any activity that takes place in Hong Kong. Thank you. Acting Secretary. Hong Kong is not exactly a location for transferring trafficked humans, or it doesn't really play much of a role in the human trafficking chain. It's just that individuals have gone to certain locations and then they were transported away. So we have been working with the relevant authorities. The committee actually plays a different role, the one that you mentioned. But the working group is, of course, still doing the functions that it is supposed to do. Thank you. Mr. Holden Chow, the speaker's microphone is not on. As said earlier, we are not the center or major location in the human trafficking chain. But thanks to the Security Bureau and the Central People's Government, we have been able to rescue a lot of people. But then the people who have been scammed actually started from Hong Kong. So some may confuse that to mean that Hong Kong is a center for trafficking of humans. So can we enhance publicity to say that this could happen anywhere in the world so that people won't misunderstand that as long as people come here, they will be transported away and trafficked? Can we do something about this? Thank you, Acting Secretary. Hong Kong is not a source or a transfer location in the human trafficking chain, nor is it a destination, of course. So these scams take place in many countries. So why have we been smeared to have people say that we have backtrack record in human trafficking? And we have seen some reports released in some places, and these reports have been very unfair to Hong Kong. We do not agree with the findings of such reports at all. Hong Kong has all along been following the UN protocols on human trafficking, and we have been complying with the protocols in terms of enforcement or prevention in victim identification and assistance as well. Thank you.
Question number 3, Ms. Elizabeth QUAT. President, low altitude economy with its long industrial chain, extensive application scenarios, and huge potential is a model for fostering new quality productive forces. In the 2024 PA, the CE has announced the direction for the development of LAE, with a view to promoting LAE as a growth engine for new quality productive forces. Will government inform this Council 1, given the government accepted applications for the first batch of LAE regulatory sandbox pilot projects last year, of the progress of processing and when successful applications will commence, and of the details of the second batch? 2, given that the PA proposes to explore with the mainland the joint establishment of low-altitude cross-boundary air routes, immigration and customs clearance, and infrastructure, of the details and progress of the plan. 3, given the government's earlier reply to my question that various departments have applied small unmanned aircraft in different scenarios and have integrated with AI technologies to perform certain tasks so as to enhance the efficiency of urban management and public services. Yet there is no mention of whether it would explore an AI-integrated unmanned aircraft urban management system. Will the government reference the mainland experience in sharing and collaboration and promote institutional innovation to reform urban management? Secretary for Transport and Logistics. President, in the 2024 policy address, the CE announced the work direction for promoting the development of low-altitude economy, which includes designating specific application sites to implement pilot projects. We will adopt a top-level planning approach, starting from the perspective of overall infrastructure planning, leveraging the advantage of one country, two systems and connection with both mainland and the world, as well as diverse talent pool. We will harness Hong Kong's strengths in the area of LAE to contribute to the nation's development of new quality productive forces. In consultation with the ITIB, the CAD, my reply is as follows. First, the first batch of regulatory sandbox pilot projects was opened for application in November 2024, with the application period closing at the end of last year. The working group on developing LAE is reviewing the project submitted by 72 applicants. It is expected that the results will be announced in Q1, and the project work will commence thereafter. Subject to the implementation of the first batch, we will announce the application details of the second batch of sandbox pilot projects in due course. The government is reviewing the existing civil aviation legislation and regulatory regimes with the target to submit the first phase of legislative amendment within Q1 of this year. The proposal is to expand the regulatory scope of the existing small unmanned aircraft order CAP 448G to cover unmanned aircraft weighing between 25 and 150 kg. We'll also plan to take the opportunity to introduce provisions in the Air Navigation Hong Kong Order 1995 CAP 448C to empower the Director General of Civil Aviation to permit the trial flights of Advanced Air Mobility, or AAM, under certain specified conditions, provided that safety is met. In the long term, we are studying the introduction of a new dedicated legislation for various AAM weighing over 150 kg. This legislation amendment will align with future technological and application developments, but will also position Hong Kong to play a significant role in advancing low-altitude economy regulatory certification. In addition to promoting local applications, the government is actively exploring the feasibility of cross-boundary delivery of goods and carriage of passengers. At the same time, cross-boundary helicopter services can enhance the convenience and efficiency of travel between different cities in the GBA, further integrating Hong Kong's diverse economy with other cities in the region and giving full play to Hong Kong's unique advantage as a hub for connecting with both the mainland and the world. To this end, the government is actively promoting interface with mainland authorities to discuss joint development of low-altitude cross-boundary air routes, immigration and customs arrangement, and supporting infrastructure. In November last year, led by the DFS, the TLB, the SB, the CAD, and the Immigration Department, as well as the Hong Kong Customs, visited Shenzhen to exchange views with the relevant authorities on cross-boundary flying activities. During the visit, the responsible lead units are identified, and both sides agree to continue communication. Looking ahead, the working group will maintain contact with the relevant authorities with the aim to facilitate cooperation to create favorable conditions for establishing the GBA low-altitude cross-boundary corridor. For LAE to take off, infrastructure is indispensable. Currently, a number of departments are already utilizing drone and AI to enhance services. Relevant departments are also leveraging different types of data from the common spatial data infrastructure and open data portal, such as maps, aerial photos, 3D, geospatial data, traffic data, weather data, to facilitate innovative applications of unmanned aircraft and open up the sharing of data. Additionally, the Digital Policy Office has launched several platform services to further support policy bureaus and departments making good use of digital technology to optimize public services and city management. The government will consider the needs of various departments for innovation, as well as draw on domestic and international experience to build a low-altitude smart network. At the same time, among the sandbox pilot projects applications we have received, there are various urban management application projects, some of which include artificial intelligence analysis, automatic identification systems, algorithm, high-precision positioning. Government departments have been participating in the pilot project. We hope that by implementing the project, we will drive local technology industry towards greater professionalism, enabling LAE to fly steadily and far. The government is conducting technical research and planning on low-altitude infrastructure. The scope of research include low-altitude surveillance and management system, low-altitude data sharing, and GIS and 3D geospatial data. The government will continue to promote development of LAE, including the implementation of sandbox pilot projects, strengthening cross-boundary cooperation, enhancing infrastructure and technical support. We will establish an innovative, efficient, and secure LAE ecosystem for Hong Kong. Ms. Elizabeth QUAT. I'm glad to hear that the government is adopting a top-level planning approach. In paragraph 3 of the principal reply, the government hasn't quite considered how there is going to be a central shared platform for management. Earlier, we visited Shunde and Foshan to visit a scheme, and they have started using the drone for urban management. They have all these takeoff and landing points, and there is proper coordination to avoid any duplication of flights, and the data can also be shared. And they have built up a new system. They have 30 different landing and takeoff points, 7 departments, a dozen or so models are coordinated to share one central platform for regular urban management, and effectiveness has been really pronounced. By comparison with Hong Kong, we have the fly tipping, we have the unlawful cutting of trees on slope. Now, when they spot all of these, the drones will send the information to the relevant department for action. So I think the government should adopt a coordinated approach for urban management. There should be one single shared platform by deploying AI in this exercise. In the principal reply, I don't think there is any intention to adopt this mindset. I hope the government will reference the mainland system and devise a central platform that will be suited for Hong Kong. Secretary, thanks very much, Ms. Quat, for the question and comments. In the regulatory sandbox project, there are a number of areas that we will strengthen, like the regulatory and legislative requirements, the infrastructure development, the hardware facilities for the takeoff and landing points, and also the communication system and the global navigation satellite system, and so on. And for the application scenarios and the air routes, they will also be part of the top-level planning. Ms. Quat mentioned various departments when or during the pilot, when the data are collected, she would like to have a centralized platform for sharing purposes. On that score, under the working group, we do have the project facilitation subgroup. Now we have representatives from the ITIB and also the DPO. We will be working together in order to bring together our efforts to share the digital information. And this will achieve a similar purpose as that in the mainland. Professor William Wong, President, cross-boundary low-altitude delivery of goods would depend on the CIQ arrangement. Under the AA, they have the Dongguan Hong Kong Logistics Park, and they have the CIQ facilities there. All the goods will be subject to customs clearance before being conveyed to the airport. Will the government be contemplating similar model to address the issue of customs clearance for goods? Secretary, thanks very much, Professor Wong, for the question. As I said in my principal reply, this is one of the areas that we are focusing our attention on under the stewardship of the DFS. In November last year, the SB, CAD, TLB, and the Hong Kong Customs visited Shenzhen for an exchange. We built up a pretty good foundation there. And for cross-boundary aviation activities, we will look at the customs clearance, the flight routing, and also the landing and takeoff points on both sides. We will focus our attention on this, and this will be tested, will be trialed in the regulatory sandbox pilot projects. We will also be liaising with the mainland authorities on the points referred to by Professor Wong. We hope that they would be able to foster cooperation there. Mr. Dennis Low, President, in the mainland, they have devoted an awful lot of resources, human resources and other resources, to the development of low-altitude economy. I visited a drone factory in the mainland. They have converted from military use to civilian use. If we are to go down the path of low-altitude economy, the most important thing is to create the right economy. As the principal reply said, we have to have the AAM, the Advanced Air Mobility System. Hong Kong is really densely populated with a lot of high-rise buildings. I think we can only develop this in the newly developed areas. In the northern metropolis, for instance, has the government started the study and revised the planning design to allow the AAM to be accommodated in these areas to foster the development of low-altitude economy. Secretary, thanks very much, Mr. Leung. As I said in my principal reply, the regulatory sandbox pilot projects are intended to create different scenarios to allow the enterprises to use the technology and the network to create this top-level planning. We have the representation of the Development Bureau on the working group, and we do have exchanges and communication there. Mr. Leung talked about the newly developed areas like the Northern Metropolis. When we consider the flight routing, this will certainly be considered to see whether we will be able to have a head start there and allow the low-altitude economy to be developed in a more sophisticated manner there. Mr. Shang Hailong, President, whether it is aviation economy or low-altitude economy, we are concerned about the development of our economy. So what plans does the government to develop the industrial chains behind the low-altitude economy? Secretary, thank you, Mr. Shang, for the question. We are taking the first step in the form of regulatory sandbox pilot projects. The whole purpose of the working group on developing LAE is to put in place this top-level planning approach whereby we can galvanize new growth points in the process. There are certain areas there. In our pilot project, we hope that we can cover the logistics, public services, R&D, and innovation. We hope that there will be new areas for growth and to create economic values. Second, Hong Kong does have a robust legal system, and we do have a robust pool of technical talents. We hope that with the low-altitude economy, we can take full advantage of our talent pool and our aviation experience, and also our connectivity with the rest of the world to create this platform for the low-altitude economy to enable the mainland enterprises to get connected with the rest of the world. Also, as I said in answer to Ms. Elizabeth QUAT, if we can use AI technology, the ITIB is promoting digitization and smart development, and low-altitude economy will become an area where we will be driving innovation. Mr. Chen Xiong, thank you, President. In promoting the development of low-altitude economy, the government has been putting in a lot of efforts. In the U.S., there were 3 air disasters. The air disaster that happened on the 29th of January is something that we should bear in mind. Now, there are going to be hundreds of thousands of drones traversing the sky, and we must be really concerned about the insurance, the training of talents, and the coordination and so on. Will the Secretary please tell us on the 3 areas that I mentioned, what is the latest from the working group on developing LAE? Secretary, thanks very much, Mr. Chen, for the question. Hong Kong is the aviation hub. The development of low-altitude economy and also aviation safety is of paramount importance. So when we take this forward, we are moving at an accelerated pace, but we have to be concerned about safety. In the regulatory sandbox pilot projects, one of the most important things is the infrastructure, the hardware, landing and takeoff points, and also the mobile communication system, the global navigation satellite system, signal reception. All of these will be part and parcel of the surveillance system in the low-altitude economy. So in terms of the safe operation of the drones and also the safety, these are important elements that we contend with. Also in Hong Kong, in the Civil Aviation Association, they do have a very stringent requirements, and Hong Kong is playing a significant role. And I think we can take full advantage of this platform to harness all the expertise from the universities, and this will drive innovation of the low-altitude economy. And this will also enable us to create a certification system for LAE regulation. And safety is precisely the most important element. Hong Kong does have an advantage there. So it's early days yet to talk about certification, but we are committed to taking full advantage of our strength and our fundamentals in pursuing safe regulation of low-altitude economy. Hong Kong can play a significant role there.
Question 4, Honourable Tony TSE. Thank you, President. The government has implemented the first 10-year hospital development plan HDP since 2016, setting aside $200 billion for the construction, redevelopment, and expansion of a number of hospitals and the provision of other facilities. In 2018, the government invited the Hospital Authority HA to commence planning for the second 10-year HDP, which is expected to cover 19 projects involving about $270 billion. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1. of the implementation of the first 10-year plan, the estimated final expenditure, the additional annual recurrent expenditure, and the assessment of the effectiveness of the plan. 2. Of the planning for the second 10-year HDP, the projects to be covered, and the expenditure, including recurrent and non-recurrent expenditures, and 3. whether the formulation of the second 10-year HDP has taken into account circumstances and the development trends in recent years, including the latest projections on the population and on healthcare manpower, the community's great emphasis on mental health, Chinese medicine and Chinese Western medicine collaboration, especially in cancer treatment, the demand for public dental services, the government's more proactive promotion of preventive and primary healthcare services, the continuous improvement in the quality of mainland healthcare services, and their enhanced accessibility to the Hong Kong public, the increasing number of Hong Kong people that go to the mainland for medical treatment and retirement, as well as the financial positions of the government and the HA. Secretary for Health. President, having consulted the HA, my consolidated reply to the question is as follows. First, in 2016, the government and the HA commenced the first Hospital Development Plan HDP with $200 billion set aside for a total of 16 projects, covering the redevelopment and expansion of 11 hospitals, the construction of a new acute hospital, 3 community health centers, and 1 supporting services center. Fourteen of the projects of the 16 have been upgraded to Cat A with a total commitment of $186,339 million. For the remaining healthcare center and community health center, these projects will be upgraded to Cat A in due course. Upon completion of the first HDP, it is anticipated that there will be a total of 2.2 million square meters of additional construction floor area. This includes 6,557 additional beds, 94 operating theaters. We think that the total number of public hospital beds under the HA will increase from 30,000 in March 2022 to about 35,000 in 2031. The number of operating theaters will increase from about 250 to about 350. We will provide additional space for general outpatient services and specialist outpatient services. At the end of 2022, the new Phase 1 building of the redevelopment project of Kwong Wah Hospital was completed. An additional a construction floor area of 145,000 square meters was provided. 4 operating theaters, 1 cardiac catheterization room, 4 endoscopy rooms, 1 MRI room, and a one-stop ambulatory care center are provided additionally. The new A&E department is about 3 times the size of the old one. It has an additional emergency medicine ward with 40 beds. There is also the isolation areas for infection control and other supporting facilities. With the commissioning of the new A&E department, the average waiting time for patients who have received A&E treatment in Kwong Wah Hospital before being admitted to the hospital has dropped 24% in the previous 2 quarters, that is, Q3 and Q4 in 2024, compared to the same period in 2023. When the North District Community Health Center building is fully commissioned after its completion in end of 2024, we estimate that the total number of attendances of general outpatient and family medicine specialist clinics will increase by 140,000 and 44,000 respectively. Some projects under the first HDB involved in the situ redevelopment, say for example the United Christian Hospital. Some facilities are temporarily and partially closed or adjusted. The clinical services have to be continued in limited workspace under limitations. The Health Bureau, HHB, and the HA would like to express their gratitude towards colleagues for their patient-oriented spirit and for their standing fast at the post to provide quality services during the construction period. They have provided quality service to the public. We would also like to thank the public for their understanding of the importance of the works to improve services and their patience towards the inconvenience caused. Some of the projects are underway, some are pending commencement. So we don't have complete information on the final expenditure and valuation of the effectiveness. The operating expenses of new hospitals will be covered by the subvention from the government to the HA. The HA will take into account the growth service of demands of clusters, the scale, progress, and plans of hospital development and expansion projects, make good use of the resources, and provide additional services. The government will review and administer the subvention to the HA under established mechanisms. For questions 2 and 3, the government announced in the 2018 policy address and mentioned in the 2018-19, 2019-20, and 2020-21 budgets that it has invited the HA to start planning for the second HDP. In April 2019, the former Food and Health Bureau presented the initial ideas of the project under the second HDP to the panel on health services. The idea back then, based on the 2014-based territorial population and employment data matrix compiled by the Planning Department and population projections up to 2031 by the Census and Statistics Department was to implement the second HDP within 2026 to 2035 to meet service demand up to 2036. The plan at that time covered 19 projects for providing over 9,000 additional beds and other necessary healthcare facilities. With the changes in the planning and development in Hong Kong, as well as changes in the population and demographics, the HHB and HA are reviewing the second HDP. In view of the planning and development strategies for the whole territory and regions announced by the Planning Department, including Hong Kong 2030 Plus towards a planning vision and strategy transcending 2030, and the Northern Metropolis Development Strategy, as well as the corresponding population projections, including the latest changes in overall population distribution and demographics, as well as the government's measure to attract talents as well as its population policy, there is the need for the HHB and the HA to plan the horizon of up to 2040 and beyond. We will also take into account demand from the population as well as land requirement before we work out the details of the second HDP. The government will also consider factors such as the needs for and cost effectiveness of renovation, refurbishment, redevelopment, and additional facilities for hospitals, and the ease of access of public services, as well as other areas. We will work out the priorities and scales and distribution of the hospital development projects. In due course, we will announce the details after the review. The HA will forecast future service demand and corresponding manpower requirements with a view to flexibly deploy manpower and recruit additional staff in a timely manner to meet demand. In planning and implementing the second HDP, the HA will dovetail government initiatives, including the development of primary healthcare services, mental health services, Chinese medicine services, and integrated Chinese Western medicine services, as well as the third hospital, as well as the development of healthcare hub of Hong Kong. There will be room reserved for additional services and facilities. As for the use of healthcare services in the mainland by Hong Kong citizens, we emphasize that we will improve our healthcare services and we will take the lion's share of the provision of service. We will also provide additional choices for the public. We want to complement the services provided on the mainland. We will also collaborate with GBA facilities. Mr. Tony TSE. Just now, the Secretary said that in the implementation of the second HDP, they will dovetail various government initiatives. He mentioned about collaboration with the GBA. Seeking medical services on the mainland is a trend. More and more people go to the Greater Bay Area to seek specialist services or undergo operations. The reason is because that there is value for money there, and the quality of services there is improving. So in relation to the second HDP, will the government consider funding or subsidizing the construction of more hospitals for Hong Kong, or assist Hong Kong people to procure healthcare services on the mainland? Secretary, thank you. In terms of cross-boundary healthcare services, there is a principle that the government will abide by. Every region should shoulder the major responsibility of provision of healthcare services for its people. We want to provide convenience and choices for the general public. Hong Kong has been providing quality services, we will not shift our primary responsibility to other places. Our goal remains that when Hong Kong people fall sick, they don't have to go elsewhere to seek treatment. Ms. Judy Chan. The first HDP, in a timely manner, responded to the demand and expectation of Hong Kong people in terms of outpatient services as well as inpatient services. However, under the first HDP, there is no addition of beds on the Hong Kong island. For the addition of beds, the Hong Kong island will have to wait for the second plan, 500 for Island East and 900 for Island West. I heard about the mention of long-term population projection. Will there be any change in the 2019 plan? That is, in Taiwan, there will be an expansion project as well as expansion of the Queen Mary Hospital in addition to another one. Secretary. The second HDP was announced in 2009 based on the population figures in 2014. The projection was also the projection of population was up to 2031. There are changes in our demographics because there are changes in our fertility rate as well as government policies. The population structure in Hong Kong has undergone significant changes. There are also changes in policies, say for example, the building of a healthcare hub as well as the third hospital. So we should not use our planning base. We should not plan based on dated statistics. We should use the latest figures and data. We should make adjustments. Adjustments will be made to the second HDP. According to the latest population, the population projection will use 2021 as the base year. This is more accurate. We will use this information and make a more accurate projection. At the same time, the HA will take into account the adjustments made of the distribution of the 7 clusters. There will be a more precise projection and planning for the number of beds on Hong Kong Island. Ms. Priscilla Leung. Starting from 2018, I asked the government to save $10 billion every year for the HA because healthcare is very important for our people. I absolutely support the first HDP. However, I heard about the incident in the Children's Hospital. This is a project we have been following very closely. It's situated in Kai Tak and finally is commissioned. Well, there's a drop in children population with a drop in population. There's also a drop in number of doctors. There are only two doctors in the department. Without them, the department will have to close. And there is an impact on the Queen Elizabeth Hospital as a result. Does the government has an overall plan? Is what I mentioned just the tip of the iceberg? That the same thing will happen to other departments. How do you assess the situation and how do you plan to respond to them? Secretary. I thank Ms. Leung for her support of our healthcare services and plans. I do hope that we will have more resources to develop our healthcare services, which is very important to everyone in Hong Kong. Ms. Leung mentioned about an incident in the Children's Hospital. I also agree with the other points mentioned by Ms. Leung. Children is not just a smaller version of an adult. They have different demands, and the facilities available to them should be different from those for an adult. That's why we plan the first and the only children's hospital in Hong Kong. The government has devoted a huge amount of resources into it. We need to make good use of the resources. It is no doubt that there is a drop in population and that of a children population. The demand may drop in certain areas, but it doesn't mean that we are not going to handle it or we're not going to continue to devote resources to enhance resources. So when it comes to children's ailments, especially secondary specialist services, operations, resources will have to be focused on these areas to provide a better service. The Chief Executive, in his policy address in 2024, mentioned that the Children's Hospital will be a center for excellence. We will consolidate resources in HA hospital cluster pediatric departments. That includes manpower. Services, especially specialist ones, will be provided in the Children's Hospital. The affected services in the ENT department, ear, nose, throat department of Children's Hospital is a result of this reason. We're coordinating with the HA. We deploy healthcare practitioners in the 7 clusters so that specialist services will be mainly provided by the Children's Hospital. We hope that in the future, resources will focus in the Children's Hospital because it's a center for healthcare services for the children. Dr. Starry Lee, I do support the government's initiative to update the second HDP. My constituency is Central Kowloon. On a number of occasions, I told the government that is badly affected by an aging population and an aging of the community. I understand that the Kai Tak Hospital will gradually replace Queen Elizabeth Hospital as the main hospital in Kowloon. Of course, there is Kwong Wai Hospital as well. There is an acute demand for healthcare services in Central Kowloon. Well, there is a problem in Wong Tai Sin because they don't have a hospital with an A&E department, unlike other districts. So please respond to the aspiration of residents in Wong Tai Sin. Please, in the next plan, consider planning for another hospital in Kowloon. We have made a suggestion. There is a site suitable for such development in Lok Fu. We have given you our proposal. I ask you to seriously consider it. Secretary, the short answer is that I have and am still considering it. We have to consider the overall resources allocation because of its finite nature. And it's not just about the monetary amount. We also have to consider hardware as well as manpower. There is an acute manpower shortage at the moment. When we have an additional hospital, we need manpower. In general, we need about 20 nurses in a ward. Even if there is a decreased number of patients in a ward, we still need that minimum amount of manpower requirement. The A&E department in Wong Tai Sin is something that we understand. For A&E service in Central Kowloon, well, there is the new hospital in Kai Tak. It will be commissioned in mid-2026. Comprehensive services will be provided to residents in Central Kowloon. We do understand there is aspiration for an A&E department in Wong Tai Sin. In the planning of A&E services, we have to ensure that A&E department is provided within a practicable distance from different areas. We will work with the HA to review the development direction of the Central Kowloon cluster in which Wong Tai Sin is. We'll also look at the distance of residents from Kwong Wah A&E department and another nearby A&E department in our plan.
Question 5. Mr. Vincent CHENG. Thank you, President. It has been reported that a recently released documentary film on 4 Hong Kong trails is widely acclaimed. There are views that Hong Kong has beautiful trails and ridge lines, so the government should adopt a new mindset or a new perspective in promoting trail tourism. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, of the government's plans in place to enhance the ancillary facilities on trails or in country parks, such as providing additional replenishment and rest stations, water filling stations, toilets, and directional signs, so as to meet the needs of different types of hikers and to further promote trail tourism and a safe hiking culture. 2, of the government's plans and publicity strategies in place to promote Hong Kong's trails to tourists from different places, such as whether it will consider taking the initiative to invite renowned runners to promote the trails or supporting the broadcasting of the said documentary film on international streaming platforms or in places outside Hong Kong so as to attract tourists from abroad, if so of the details, if not the reason for that. And 3, in order to further promote Hong Kong's trail tourism, whether the government will consider supporting the organization and promotion of trail races or cross-country races so as to attract more locals and non-locals to take part in such races, thereby stepping up publicity on Hong Kong's beautiful natural trails. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. President, Hong Kong has rich green and ecotourism resources, including hiking trails and country parks throughout the city, with the breathtaking outdoors that are only minutes away from the urban hustle, attracting many tourists each year for hiking and outdoor activities. Further capitalizing on Hong Kong's abundant ecological resources for promoting green tourism development is in fact one of the directions in diversifying tourism products as outlined in the Hong Kong Tourism Development Blueprint 2.0 that we announced at the end of last year. In respect of the question raised by Mr. Vincent CHENG, in consultation with the Environment and Ecology Bureau, the reply is as follows. To promote green tourism, the Tourism Commission, in collaboration with the Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department (AFCD), has been taking forward the enhancement of hiking trails since 2018 to enhance the tourism supporting facilities of 20 hiking trails in country parks, which are popular and with tourism potential, and to enhance the Enjoy Hiking thematic website. Enhancement works include improvement to existing hiking trail networks, control of soil erosion at trails, enhancement of vegetation coverage, addition of lookout points and enrichment of visitor information, and so on. The enhancement works on 12 hiking trails have been completed. Those for the remaining 8 hiking trails are expected to be completed progressively by the first quarter of 2026. AFCD also seeks to enhance hiking trails and provide supporting facilities in country parks, including the provision of 57 flushing toilets and over 120 portable toilets, 289 pavilions, 37 water filling stations, and about 30 drinks vending machines. The government has set aside $500 million to enhance country parks, including the improvement and addition of facilities, as well as gradually setting up large-scale enhancement facilities such as treetop adventure and open museum of historical relics and so on. Examples of the works involved are the construction of 5 toilets and reconstruction of 6 toilets at popular hiking spots. These toilets will adopt low-carbon and green designs and will be gradually rolled out from 2026 to 2028. The viewing platform overlooking Po Pin Chau and Lima Hang Lead Mine Cave Revitalization Project were opened to the public in end 2024. AFCD makes use of school visits, guided tours, online videos, social media, and so on to promote the unique natural scenery and hiking experiences of Hong Kong, provide information on hiking safety and hill fire prevention, and advocate the concept of taking your litter home. Apart from placing directional signs in country parks, AFCD also provides consolidated information on hiking trails, including maps, distance, level of difficulty, and attractions along the trails and so on through the Enjoy Hiking website to facilitate locals and tourists' planning of their itineraries. The mobile application Enjoy Hiking hiker tracking service also records users' location, thus shortening the search and rescue time in case of accidents. Furthermore, AFCD works with the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office's ETOs in the mainland and the Forestry Administration of Guangdong Province to promote Hong Kong's natural scenery and hiking routes, as well as to disseminate hiking safety messages through their social media platforms in the mainland. AFCD will continue to review and refine its promotion strategy and information, and through diverse information distribution channels to ensure locals and tourists safely enjoy the natural wonders of Hong Kong. Meanwhile, the Hong Kong Police Force, FSD, Government Flying Service GFS, and Civil Aid Service also raise hikers' awareness on hiking safety through various channels and activities. Apart from the AFCD's promotion, the Hong Kong Tourism Board, through its Hong Kong Great Outdoors year-round promotional platform, introduces in detail hiking trails in different districts accompanied by stores to deepen the understanding of the trails, as well as dozen activities and tourism products by the travel trade and other organizations, allowing tourists to appreciate Hong Kong's inspiring natural landscape. Besides, films are also a very effective promotional channel. For instance, the film Hong Kong 4 Trails documents a recent trail running event featuring participants from various places who challenged the limits by crossing mountains and valleys while at the same time showcasing Hong Kong's unique natural scenery. The Cultural and Creative Industries Development Agency, CCIDA, is working with overseas ETOs and film festival partners worldwide to promote this film at overseas film festivals. CCIDA will strive for opportunities of showing this film on both international and mainland streaming platforms to attract more tourists to experience the natural beauty of Hong Kong. The Hong Kong TB also invited the director and producer of the film to share Hong Kong's great natural scenery and trail running experiences with overseas media. Various trail running and cross-country events are held by different organizations every year, along with other leisure trail events. The government also supports and promotes some of these events to encourage more tourists to come to Hong Kong and take part in these events. The government will continue to promote green tourism based on the principle of nature conservation and sustainable development to pursue the concept of tourism as everywhere in Hong Kong. Thank you, President. Mr. Vincent CHENG. On social media platforms, I saw the promotion of the movie Hong Kong 4 Trails. I also watched this movie. A lot of trails have spectacular views. It is worthwhile to promote these trails to the public. We have Mountain Fuji in Japan. There are also other great mountains elsewhere. There are pit stops. There are tea houses, mountain houses, and so on. All these will enrich the hiking experience of hikers. On the front of ecotourism, will the government select a handful of trails and promote these trails in order to attract more hikers to go hiking? We also promote these trails with the help of celebrities. Thank you, Deputy President. Thank you, Mr. Vincent CHENG, for your follow-up. I agree with Mr. Vincent CHENG. We need to be more active. In Hong Kong, in mainland China, we need to promote trail tourism in Hong Kong. I noticed recently that there have been reports. One of the reasons O'Sullivan came to Hong Kong to appreciate the natural scenery in Hong Kong. That's why we promote the platform Hong Kong Great Outdoors. We have Lau Shui Hung and other boardwalks and trails. The Hong Kong 4 Trails is a great opportunity for us to showcase the natural scenery of the mountains in Hong Kong in the context of races. I agree with Mr. Vincent CHENG. Trails in Hong Kong have different trail difficulty levels. For tourists who have just come to Hong Kong, they can choose easy trails and for other hikers, they can choose trails of different difficulty if they have different equipment. Many trails are close to the urban area in Hong Kong. After hiking, they can return to the urban area for food, for example. In order to provide a seamless experience, we can promote some easy or moderate trails to tourists. We need to think from the perspective of tourists. From the perspective of tourism, this is possible, and we will also be working with the AFCD to design these promotional opportunities. Mr. Stanley Lee. Thank you, Deputy President. I support the promotion of trail tourism. Many locals like hiking as well. In Sai Kung, that is my constituency, there are relatively easy trails. To Ngong Ping, for example, there are spectacular views. But one needs to choose a trail that is suited to one's physical level. They need to take into account the physical level. Can we engage professionals to assess the level of difficulty of all the trails in Hong Kong? Probably the government is taking the initiative to do so. We have a visitor center on the AFCD on trails. I think this center can play a more significant function. For example, we can invite professionals to introduce the trails in these centers. They can introduce, for instance, the level of difficulty on the trails. Since these tourists may be coming to Hong Kong for the first time, they need introduction of these trails by professionals. That's why we can engage professionals to help with the promotional work on this front. Secretary. Thank you, Deputy President. Thank you, Mr. Stanley Lee, for his comments. Yes, indeed, when visitors come to Hong Kong without any preparation before they go hiking, in the starting point of the trails, there may not be comprehensive information at present. We can consider providing more information at this set of point. Say for McLeod's Trail, for the first kilometer, there is an uphill area. Hikers need to be psychologically prepared before they start hiking. This will be better. In relation to mountains or hiking association members at the visitor center, I keep an open mind. We'll have to take into account the use of resources. We need to make sure they are put to good use. For a hiking association, we may engage professionals to help on long holidays or on weekends. On weekdays, on different platforms, say those of the AFCD or the tourism board, or even on social media platforms, say Little Red Book, there is already an abundance of information. There is the website, Enjoy Hiking website on the AFCD. There are introductions as well as the overall difficulty reference in relation to different trails in Hong Kong. For example, 3 stars refers to a particular level of difficulty. We have such references on the website. We may be providing more information in relation to, for example, the number of steps along the trails. We'll consider this possibility. Thank you. Mr. Benson Look. Thank you, Deputy President. I talked to practitioners and I understand the Secretary went to the shows, went to take part in different races, and so on. The Secretary also went to the movie theater to watch the Hong Kong 4 trails. When the Secretary was the Commissioner for Transport, the Secretary already worked on this front. We have scenic trails. Tens of thousands of participants, be they local or overseas, took part in these events. For the marathon that took place just last week, we saw an attendance of 15,000. I'd like to ask the Secretary, Hong Kong has been hailed as a gourmet paradise. Can we develop Hong Kong as a paradise of hiking or paradise of running so that we can enhance the stream of revenue for Hong Kong? Thank you, Mr. Benson Look. I know you are passionate about running. For road racing or road running, this is very popular, especially in winter and in autumn. There's a wide range of running races and events all over Hong Kong. We have a densely populated area. We need to avoid too much of an impact on traffic. In the topic today, we focus on trails. We have, for example, trail races. These are physically demanding. Last weekend, there was a marathon. Over 80,000 took part in the marathon race. Over 10,000 participants were tourists. I know there are plans in place to invite tourists to come to Hong Kong to take part in these places for a half marathon on Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, or for other larger scale running races without affecting the chances of locals taking part in these running races. We are pleased to invite visitors or runners from overseas to come to Hong Kong to take part in these races. We can develop this into an industry. F&B, accommodation, ancillary products, all these are business opportunities that we can tap into. We are developing these areas. Thank you, Mr. Kong. Thank you, Deputy President. In Shenzhen, there's a plan on hiking. It runs from 2022 to 25. These hiking trails are categorized into different types. Say culture, parents, children, nature exploration, fitness, trails, and so on. Apart from using stars to rate the level of difficulty of different trails, we redraw reference from the Shenzhen counterpart to give our local trails different categories. Thank you. Indeed, we promote our trails on this front as well. The Tourism Board worked with Little Red Book to promote trails using different themes. We have nature, we have different types, different themes of trails. That's exactly how we promote these trails. In Hong Kong Great Outdoors, we have leisurely walks, exploring outlying islands to explore different hiking trails. In addition to trails, or in addition to hiking trails, trails have different context or background. Say Wu Kao Tang, these are trails with red elements. For these red hiking trails, we'll highlight these themes. So Hong Kong people or hikers can choose these trails should they feel interested in them. Mr. Andrew Lam, I used to go hiking. I hope to go hiking again soon. But I'm worried that I'm not in my prime anymore. For physically handicapped or for disabled people, they want to enjoy hiking to appreciate the natural scenery of Hong Kong as well. We have a wide array of hiking trails in Hong Kong. Can we take stock of these trails to make some convenient for the disabled in Hong Kong? Not just in Hong Kong, we can promote these trails to different places, even outside Hong Kong. Well, Mr. Andrew Lam, I'm not worried about you. It's been a decade or so since I last time went hiking. Well, I believe I have no problem with hiking for 20 odd kms. Of course, you can as well. Hiking is a good activity. It enjoys us to unwind, but we need to choose trails that we can command. There are hiking trails that are suitable for the disabled. We have a 1-hour hiking trail in the Peak. For McLeod's Trail, I went to it recently. Some people take minibuses or taxis to East Dam. They can overlook the scenery of Po Pin Chau and the reservoir. For those who can walk for a longer time, they can walk from the East Dam to Pak Tam Chung, which is about 8 kilometers walk, which is about 8 km's walk. All of these trails are easy to walk. When hikers have a pole, then they can go on these hiking trails with ease. For those with mobility difficulty, they have to be very careful. They need to choose trails that they can handle. Thank you.
Last question seeking an oral reply. Mr. Tang Fei. Deputy President, there are views that educational tools which integrate education with tourism will not only enhance travel experiences but also promote cultural exchanges and knowledge dissemination, thereby driving the growth of the local tourism, catering, accommodation and related industries and stimulating the economic development of Hong Kong. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, whether it has plans to make dedicated efforts to promote educational tours by bringing together Hong Kong's historical and cultural resources, technology and innovative facilities as well as renowned academic institutions to attract student groups from the mainland and overseas to Hong Kong to conduct study exchanges, if so, of the specific targets, promotion strategies and expected benefits, if not, the reasons for that and whether it will formulate relevant plans in the future. 2, whether it will consider launching dedicated educational tour itineraries targeting different age groups and catering for different needs, such as innovation and technology itineraries focusing on visits to universities and scientific research institutions, cultural exploration itineraries featuring tours around museums, and red itineraries on patriotic education, if so, of the specific plans, if not, the reasons for that, and 3, whether it has considered collaborating with local enterprises to introduce supporting services and measures for educational tours, if so, of the specific plans, if not, the reasons for that. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. Thank you, Deputy President. In respect of the question raised by Mr. Tang Fei, my reply is as follows. CSTB, the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau, promulgated the development blueprint for Hong Kong's tourism industry 2.0 on the 30th of December last year, setting out 4 major development strategies covering 4 areas of work, including product development, expanding visitor source markets, technology innovation, and enhancing services. In terms of expansion of visitor source markets, the blueprint proposes to examine the travel needs of the silver-haired, family, study tour, and youth visitor segments in detail. CSTB, together with the Hong Kong Tourism Board, will promote the development of inbound study tours to Hong Kong through 3 areas, namely product development, enhancing promotion, and upgrading support services. In terms of product development, Hong Kong has world-class resources in culture, sports, and ecology. They are suitable for integration into study tours. Through exploring and consolidating resources, CSTB and the Tourism Board will encourage the trade to develop more study tour itineraries and products with Hong Kong characteristics to satisfy the needs of students and parents of different age groups and learning needs. An example of resource exploration is that the Ocean Park Corporation has become the only entity outside the mainland to be successfully certified by the Guangdong Study Travel Association and the Education Bureau of Guangzhou Municipality as a study tour base in Guangdong Province and the fourth batch of study tours base for primary and secondary school students in Guangzhou respectively last year. These achievements further solidified the park's leading role in the field of conservation and education in the region and enhanced Hong Kong's appeal as a destination for study tours. We'll continue to facilitate the park to organize familiarization tours and seminars for educational institutions in the mainland, as well as participate in exchange activities in the mainland and overseas to further promote the park's programs and activities. Currently, the park is actively exchanging views with study tour organizations in various provinces and municipalities in the mainland and Southeast Asia to explore the possibility of arranging their students to visit the park. As for the consolidation of resources, there are many landmarks and attractions suitable for study tours in various districts of Hong Kong, such as the Hong Kong Intangible Cultural Heritage Center, the Tai Kwun, the Hong Kong Shuttlecock Anti-War Memorial Hall, and the Mai Po Nature Reserve. The Tourism Board has consolidated the information and combined them into 9 major tourism themes, namely Hong Kong's past and present, revitalization and conservation, cultural arts, Hong Kong Intangible Cultural Heritage, natural ecology, environmental protection, technological development, public services, and red tourism. The list of resources has been distributed to trade representatives, offering mainland and overseas inbound study tours with information and materials for a wide range of learning experiences to facilitate planning for suitable itineraries. On enhancing promotion, the Tourism Board held an online briefing last August to introduce the relevant themes, landmarks, and attractions for study tours to travel, trade, and related sectors in Hong Kong. Subsequently, the Tourism Board invited delegation of mainland study tour travel agents and educational institutions to Hong Kong for a 5-day familiarization trip for meeting and exchange with Hong Kong travel trade partners and experience Hong Kong's rich study tour resources, products, and services firsthand, including visits to the Hong Kong Museum of the War of Resistance and Coastal Defense, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority Information Center, the Police Museum, We Park at Tuen Mun Eco Park, social enterprise restaurants, and dozen tours organized by the mills, as well as participation in Hong Kong's traditional dim sum workshops. In future, the Tourism Board will continue to actively develop the study tour market segment and promote Hong Kong tourism targeting the youth and study tour groups in the mainland and overseas markets, including organizing briefings for trade and inviting representatives of relevant groups and organizations from overseas and the mainland to visit Hong Kong to deepen their understanding of Hong Kong's resources for developing study tours. In terms of enhancement of supporting facilities, it's very important to ensure the product quality and service standard, as well as to improve the management system as study tour is targeted at the youth segment. In this regard, Blueprint 2.0 proposed holistically a series of measures to enhance the service quality and standard of supporting facilities of the tourism industry. Based on the operational characteristics of study tours, CSTP will examine whether the supporting facilities such as accommodation and tourist guides could meet the needs of the industry and reach out to organizations with potential to enhance Hong Kong's ability in exploring the source markets for study tours. Mr. Tang Fei, thank you. In the mainland, there's a phrase known as tourism that helps drive the growth of economy. We can adopt the concept in Hong Kong. Cultural tourism as well as economic growth. This can apply to Hong Kong. This year marks the 80th anniversary of victory of the War of Resistance. In mainland, teachers and students there are very familiar with the history of the 14-year War of Resistance. In Hong Kong, the 3 years and 8 months long War of Resistance may not be familiar to a lot of people. The Secretary mentioned a lot about the attraction sites as well as museums in Hong Kong. All these are closely related to the War of Resistance. My question is whether there will be measures this year to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the War of Resistance and to help encourage the development of study tours to bring in students and teachers from the mainland so that through study tours, they can learn about Hong Kong's contribution to the War of Resistance. Secretary. Thank you, Deputy President. I thank Mr. Tang for the questions. Mr. Tang is right. On red tourism, in the past, we might not be able to think of Hong Kong as we talk about red tourism, as we don't have as many resources compared to the mainland. However, we're unique in this history. This year marks the 80th anniversary of victory in the War of Resistance. We will celebrate the anniversary. We have been in talks with different departments to see how we can upgrade the exhibitions at the Museum of the War of Resistance and Coastal Defense. We are following up on some good ideas. Some members from this council suggested that, for example, for the uprising of the two airlines, well, we can display the history at some attraction sites. Also, as mentioned, there are some hiking trails in Hong Kong with historical relics that can display the history of the War of Resistance. We can build a base for patriotic education in Hong Kong. We can bring together all these historical contents, and with these contents, we can work with different provinces and municipalities in the mainland to promote about Hong Kong and to bring them to Hong Kong so that students and children from the mainland can join study tours to Hong Kong. Apart from red tourism, people from the mainland can, through these study tours, can learn more about the one country, two systems principle as well as the history and culture of Hong Kong. I believe these routes and itineraries can be very attractive to visitors. Professor Lau Chi-pang. Deputy President, Mr. Tang Fei suggested that we bring visitors from the mainland as well as overseas through study tours. And the Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism is here to address the question. I think there's a huge demand for us to develop study tours. At the primary school level, there are culture as well as science subjects. In the secondary school level, we are promoting STEAM and STEM subjects and curriculum. At the secondary school level, curriculum has been adjusted so that students have more time to learn outside classroom. Currently, we're lacking a system to develop study tours for our students. We don't have any representatives from the Education Bureau today to address the question. I wonder if the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau will work with the Education Bureau to incorporate study tours into the local curriculum. As suggested by Mr. Tang Fei, we can bring our local students to different places. This can also help drive economic growth. Secretary. Thank you, Deputy President. I thank Professor Lau for the questions. The two members who've just spoken, they are both from the education sector. I'm not very familiar with the education sector myself, but I understand that the civic education subject starting from year 2021 to 22, study visits to the mainland is part of the elements of this subject. At these study visits, our students visit different places in the mainland, and this can help enhance the sense of identity. I mentioned about the Museum of the War of Resistance and Coastal Defense. I also mentioned about hiking trails with historical relics. I think it is great that if we can bring our children to these attraction sites and museums. I will ask the Education Bureau to follow up on this. Mr. Kenneth Leung. Thank you, Deputy President. In the major reply, the Secretary said that there was an online briefing and that the Tourism Bureau has worked with mainland study tour travel agents and educational institutions and bring them to Hong Kong for familiarization trips. This is commendable. My question is whether the Bureau will target young people as well as students in its publicity campaigns. For example, will the Bureau on Xiaohongshu as well as Douyin launch publicity campaigns so that young people from the mainland would be interested in coming to Hong Kong for study tours? Secretary. Thank you, Deputy President. I thank Mr. Leung for the questions. Through the Tourism Bureau, on different platforms, including mainland social media platforms, we have been publicizing our activities and events, including parent-child tours as well as play tours and tours with learning elements. For study tours in particular, schools as well as educational institutions, they come to Hong Kong as delegations. For children as well as students from the mainland and overseas, if they're interested in coming to Hong Kong, of course, it'd be great. However, we hope that they can come as a group so that we can ensure their safety and as well as the quality of their tours. Mr. Perry Yu. Deputy President, study tour is integrating education with tourism. Mr. Tang Fei raised this question because we want to bring in young people as well as students from the mainland and overseas to come to Hong Kong for study tours. Professor La Chi-Pang said we also have to develop study tours for our local students. This can also be a tourism product that can help drive economic growth. We have been launching different study visits and tours to the mainland, and the Education Bureau has been promoting these tours as well. Since the COVID pandemic, we've been asking the Education Bureau to develop local study tours as well. We have to create the conditions and environment so that the local sectors can develop local study tours. However, in her major reply, the Secretary didn't mention so much about this. The CSTB might be the major bureau responsible for study tourism. However, the Education Bureau has to be involved as well. Will the Secretary establish a communication mechanism with the Education Bureau so that the government can work with the local tourism industry to develop study tours and the relevant tourism products? This can help promote the Study in Hong Kong brand as well. Secretary. The main point of this oral question is about attracting mainland people to come to Hong Kong through study tours. This will help facilitate exchanges and communication, and this will also bring benefits to Hong Kong. That's why I am here to address this oral question. Before I drafted the reply, I also talked to the Education Bureau. So I'm aware what kind of arrangements have been put in place by the Education Bureau to bring local students to different study tours. My understanding of this question is about how we can develop study tours for students from other places. Well, I will reflect the suggestion given by members today to the Education Bureau to see how the Education Bureau can work with the local sectors. If necessary, we will offer assistance as well. Professor William Wong. Thank you, Deputy President. Study tours can be held together with international competitions. For example, students may come to Hong Kong for competitions, and we can arrange for them to take part in study tours that are related to their competitions. Will the government arrange or deploy manpower to hold such events or study tours? Secretary. Well, it's not easy for us to deploy specific or dedicated manpower for study tours. However, this is a good suggestion for students who come to Hong Kong for activities or events as well as competitions. Can they stay for another day or two to take part in study tours? Well, we'll have to think about what we can offer to these students who come to Hong Kong for competitions. We are quite experienced in this. For example, we have held marathons in Hong Kong. We have held food festivals. I've said time and again that we can incorporate different elements into these events to enrich travelers' experience. We can talk to the tourism board about this. Say, for example, post-secondary institutions, as the organizer of these events, we can think about what we can offer to the students and children participating in these events so that these elements can be incorporated into their tours and trips. We can think about this. Mr. Stanley Ng. Thank you, Deputy President. I welcome the idea that the government is trying to develop red study tours focusing on patriotic education. Can the government go further in the sense that we can consolidate the red tourism resources in the Greater Bay Area so that we can develop multiple destination study tours? Say the Dongjiang column, there was research about this, and it is closely related to the history in the mainland. Will relevant resources be consolidated so that we can create a GBA red tourism map? Secretary. I thank the member for the suggestions. The FTU has offered a lot of suggestions to us in relation to how we can develop red tourism. I understand that the Dongjiang column, apart from contributing during the War of Resistance, I understand that in Huizhou there are also memorial halls as well as exhibits that commemorate the history of Dongjiang column. Can we help connect the dots in this sense? Well, I think it's feasible, but the first step is to see what resources we have within Hong Kong. We have to enrich our own resources and contents first, and the next step we can work with neighboring cities to see how there could be collaborations. Mr. Dominic Lee. Thank you, Deputy President. Visits to the Legislative Council have been very popular, and many study tour groups, they launch visits to the LegCo. I wonder if more public organizations can help organize this kind of study tours for these groups. Secretary. I believe it's possible, say the police museum might be very popular among people. Well, the government complex is a workplace for civil servants. I'm not sure if they can be opened. However, say the Hong Kong Observatory as well as the Marine Museum, they could be open to the public for study tours.
End of questions. Members' Bill, first reading.